Whoa. Welcome. My name is Thomas Rongen. I'm your host for the first session today of the Royal Dutch Soccer Federation. We've got 30 companies here in Miami, and the Orange Crush, by the way, is here. Oranje boven, as we say. We've got a stand bigger than you can imagine. As I said again, please stop by the SportsNL Cafe for some cheese, some Heineken we have as well, and some ability to talk to some of those companies as well. The Royal Dutch Soccer Federation and the Football Institute of the Netherlands in general continues to shape the future of this beautiful game. And we would like to do that together, quite frankly. That's why we're here, to collaborate, to be creative, to be innovative, and allowing the Dutch, a small country, but thinking big, to think with you, to continue to shape the future of football together. With any further ado, I would like to introduce the General Secretary of the Royal Dutch Federation, Gijs de Jong. Gijs, welcome.
Thank you.
In my city,
Thank
where
you.
I've been for 40 years. Nico Beckers, who will be the first speaker, the head of International Strategy and Partnership, and somebody that doesn't really need an introduction, but he does, of a great line of incredible players that this small country has created. Started with Feyenoord winning the Europa Cup, the 74 Clockwork Orange on the Rinus Michels, Johan Cruijff with Wim Jansen. Two players I was able to play with in 1980 when this gentleman was born that year. A former Feyenoord, Liverpool, but more so Dutch legend. 104 caps, 3 World Cups. Please, a warm welcome for Dijk.
Thank you.
Nicole, the stage is yours. Enjoy and learn.
Thank you, Thomas. Good morning. Nice to see you all. And well, let's keep the energy high and let's start with something we all love. Great football players and even greater football moments.
You want to turn it off the mic? No. I'm done. Yeah, I'm going to host more.
So it has been a Dutch masterclass in the second half. Spain, humble, hammered, humiliated by Holland. The World Cup holders on the end of a hiding. The Netherlands have been slaves Thursday. And this one is the Netherlands are the new European champions.
Well, thank you and welcome to Reinventing Football, the session about how we develop football and how the global football community could benefit from our vision. And hopefully you were inspired by the video you just saw, the players you saw. And hopefully you also want to know, how can I create the most valuable players for my organization? Because those Dutch, the country is so small, how do they manage to keep producing talent year after year, decade after decade? And hopefully you're also interested in how you can create a winning football philosophy, helping your coaches to lay the basis for those players to bloom. And that's why we're here today. And let's start with something that for us is the foundation of this vision. And that's our Dutch DNA. Because you probably know us as stubborn, direct, sometimes maybe a bit rude even, free thinkers. But we have to, because we're such a small country in the world. We're the 133rd country in size, the 67th country in population. But we're also the 6th in the last Winter Olympics and the 7th in Summer Olympics. We're the 6th country in global innovation science. And that's not by coincidence. We have both a men and a women's team in the top 10 FIFA ranking. So there's something there in the Dutch DNA that's different. And it's because we have to think differently to survive. We're too small to can rely on talent pools, numbers. We have to think differently in finding talent and optimizing talent. So basically, within Europe, we have one of the smallest budgets of any federation. And still we managed to produce talented players, talented coaches over the last 5 decades. And why is that? It's the DNA that starts with the way we think and the way we look at football. But we've got 2 or 3 main pillars that help us creating and cultivating this DNA. And the first is the lens through which we look at football, or football philosophy. The way we think football should be played and how it should be played, with which type of players and how the coach should act with the players. And secondly, we're small, but we have over 3,100 football clubs in Holland. For every 2,000 people, there's a full-size football pitch. So there's an infrastructure there that's so dense and unique that we have our own field lab in the backyard. And third, very important, and the focus for our federation for the last 10 years is an innovative ecosystem we're trying to build. We're a football federation, we know how to play football, but we have over 40 partners, startup, universities, and a lot of them are here today, that help us innovate football, that help us with data and technology to optimize talent, to find talent, and to cultivate our DNA. So we're here today to not only share what we do, but we also believe that the global football community can benefit from our vision, from the products we have developed, from the innovation we have implemented in Holland. And that's why we're here today. So let's start with that football philosophy. Like I said earlier, we have to think differently. We have to find new pathways to create good coaches and better players, to be able to compete with much bigger countries in the world of football. And that's why we look through a certain lens at how we football develop. This attitude gave us total football in the 70s, something we have perfected over the last 5 decades and really is a very distinctive way of looking at football, playing football and developing football. And one of those very important ideas we have is that a coach, no matter you're professional or grassroots, should be able to have access to the best exercises, content and knowledge. Even the smallest or the beginning coaches for the 5 years and younger, they have the opportunity to reach into our content and help themselves develop. And we created tools for them from 5 years until the professional. Every coach has access to that content. Like you just saw in the video, you probably also know us through Oranje. Creative, attractive, colorful football. So in 72 and 74, the famous total football generation. 88, our European championship we've won. But don't underestimate the women's team. In the 3rd European championship, they already won the championship in 2017. Unfortunately, 2019 we lost against the US for the World Cups, but we'll be soon back and hopefully taking revenge. And it's a very big honor for us to have Dirk with us today. And Dirk, we're talking about coaches being very important to lay the base for a player to bloom. Could you elaborate a bit more from your experience as a professional player? How important is that coach to reach your full potential?
Well, I think it's very important to be coached by the youngest age as possible. And when we saw the start of the movie, we saw our famous Dutch soccer stars in the history of Dutch football. It was Johan Cruijff, Virgil van Dijk, Arjen Robben. Everybody knows these kind of players. But, for example, the way I grew up in football was not at the beginning at the highest level. I started on an amateur base, and with the age of 5, I was getting trained by dads. And dads become beginning coaches, beginning trainers, and they get their badges done. And at the end of the day, I had every week a good training session. From the age of 5 years, when I was 12, I had a coach who played at the highest amateur level, but he wanted to give something back to the community, and he coached me as well. And when I get 17 years old, almost 18, I got my first contract. So I was able, even I wasn't the best player at that moment, to develop myself. And I think this is the biggest strength in Dutch football, that no matter how good you are, there's always a possibility to develop yourself. And that's why I think it's so important, the coaching the players need, the children need to be coached every day, in and out. And I think we are one of the best in the world, if I can say, because it meant a lot to me. And also in our philosophy, it's very important to give something back to the community. So I retired 4 years ago, and my biggest ambition is, yes, to be a coach in football, but my biggest ambition is to give something back to football, because football meant so much to me. And I had success. I managed to play 104 caps, but also my best friend I met at the age of 5 years when I was playing football. So also socially, football is very important for every one of us.
And you've played with a couple of the best coaches in the world, also Dutch coaches. What would you say is the big difference between how a Dutch coach interacts with the team and helps the team develop compared to other successful international coaches?
Well, I had several very, very good coaches. And if I speak of the best coaches I had in Holland, I will always speak about Bert van Marwijk, who coached me at the 2010 World Cup when we managed to reach the final, and Louis van Gaal. But also I had, for example, Rafael Benitez, the Spanish coach, who also was the coach of Liverpool. But I just want to tell a story about Louis van Gaal, what shows the typical Dutch coach in the history. Because everybody knows Louis van Gaal when he was at Ajax at 1996 and he managed to win the Champions League. But once he became, for the second time, the manager of the Dutch team, he just was thinking out of his comfort zone to be successful. And we in Holland were always used to play in a system 1-4-3-3. But he knew when the tournament came closer that it was impossible to be successful at that stage. So he managed to think out of his comfort zone. Everybody in Holland was skeptical because, we always like to play attacking football 1-4-3-3. And he decided to change the system. And that's what Dutch coaches doing all the time. They always think, how can I be better the next day? Because what I'm doing today won't be good enough tomorrow. So that's what I learned from Louis van Gaal. And when we managed to win the first game, it was the best ever game I saw, because I was sitting on the bench. I was not on the pitch at that moment. But we managed to beat Spain in an exceptional way. And everybody was surprised, except Louis van Gaal, because he already knew it. And that's typical Dutch.
Thank you, Dirk. The last pillar of this tree is the infrastructure in Holland. The second one is the infrastructure in Holland. So for every 2,000 people, there's a full-size pitch available. Within 1.5 miles of every city center, there's a football club. And this helps us not only to create an infrastructure where every kid can play football, it also makes sure that it has a good and professional coach, like Dirk just mentioned. And we are the #1 sport in Holland. Football is the biggest. But we can't rely on the talent pool just to pop up. We have to optimize talent. We have to create a football pyramid and a pathway where we can identify every talent from the age of maybe 7, 9 until even 18, and having the ability to still sign your first professional contract, because there's an option, there's a pathway for you to walk on. Not only is it important for the player and the coach, But for us, it's the ideal background and backyard to innovate. It's a very cool if we can use 3,000 clubs, over 60 professional clubs, as our field labs. In Zeist, in our headquarters, we create new innovations, and we have the ability to test this and implement this with the club. The whole DNA, the whole culture within football in Holland is based on how can I become better the next day? And what can I do to improve myself? And how can this improvement help the whole football community in Holland? And Gijs, I would like to ask you, innovation is a very big part of our DNA, of our culture in Holland, but also from the Federation. Could you tell us a bit more about this vision of ours on innovation?
I will try at least. But I think in the end, a big part of our success in the Netherlands is all about thinking big, and also very important about our DNA. And I'll try to explain that a little bit more. And I think at the KNVB, we are the beating heart of football innovation, not only on the pitch, also off the pitch. We try to innovate. And we have a big reputation on this, and I think this reputation is recognized by UEFA, by FIFA, and by the global footballing landscape. It didn't start yesterday. It started already, I think, at the moment that FIFA was started in 1904. We were together with 6 other associations, and Real Madrid at the time. We were the founders of FIFA in the world. And it's not that we invented football, definitely not, but we always push for innovation and for the development of the game. Not because we want to change the game, but because we want to make sure that the game stays future-proof, and then you have to develop the game. And I think, well, Nicole already showed it to us. It's not that it didn't bring us success, it did bring us success. At the European Cup, winning it at the men's side, winning it at the women's side, 4 times runners-up at the World Cup. So we definitely have to win that World Cup one day. But again, back to what Nicole said, we're relatively a small country, so we have to think big. And let's look at our biggest competitors. If you see our biggest competitors, it is Germany. 84 million people living in Germany. France, 68 million. England, 56. Italy, 60 million. Spain, 48 million. Netherlands, 70 million. So our nearest competitor is always 3 times as big as we are. So we have to do something different to compete. So we have to think big, but that's not enough. The second one is that... Oh, this one? No? This one? Yes. We say, if you can't outrun them, we have to outsmart them. And that's what we try to do. We try to do things which other countries don't do to become better than others. And Nicole already explained, yes, we have good clubs in the Netherlands. We have more than 3,000 clubs. So in every small city, like the city where I live, in the south of the Netherlands, there's always a big club where all the kids can play. They only pay €100 to play at that club. So it's a very accessible sport in the Netherlands. And yes, what Dirk already said, we have a very high level of education, and they don't trust me with football education, but they do trust a lot of other dads who get a small education so they can do good training sessions for the kids in the cities. But also, because we are a relatively small country, we can have very good competitions every week. We have more than 30,000 matches every week in the Netherlands, and our biggest talents can play the biggest talents in the Netherlands every week in the national competitions, which is easy because it's such a small country. But even that is not enough. And I think we say we have to outsmart them, we have to outsmart the other countries, and that's partially based also in our culture, because we are such a small country, because we live below sea level, because we have to compete with the bigger world. So we try to outsmart the others. And well, that's in our DNA. And I think it's good to explain the Dutch DNA a little bit more than we did until now. I think kids in the Netherlands are really educated and raised to think independently, to think autonomously. So it's not only doing what your parents do, it's also making your own choices from a young age on. So I think we are born ready for that and born to be disruptive, born to think differently than other people in the world. And that definitely leads to a lot of creative solutions which we find in the Netherlands. And let me give you an example of that. I think the VAR is a strong example. The whole research done on the VAR is big part of that's done in the Netherlands, is a good example of disruptive thinking, because it was not really a difficult solution to think of, because I think in 2012 everybody knew that using the broadcast feeds would definitely improve the decision making of the referees. So that was not the difficult part. The difficult part was that FIFA and IFAB said we will never allow electronic stuff and equipment be used for refereeing decisions. And what did we do in the Netherlands? We said, well, we don't believe in that. We will start with a research and development project to find out the added value of the video referee, but also to think of a protocol how the video referee should work. And I think the present protocol, which we use today, is still 80% of the work we did in 2012, 2013 to think of this idea. And why do we do this? I think in general in the Netherlands, we every now and then we like to follow the path of civil disobedience, to do something which FIFA and IFAB said, no, that's not allowed, but we think, okay, but that's the best solution, we will do it. And I think that's very strongly based with people in the Netherlands. And there was also in the example about total football in the 70s and 80s. Rinus Michels really revolutionized football at that time and made it different than we did today. And maybe some of you remember that our former president, Mr. Michael van Praag, he was the first one to step up against Sepp Blatter in 2014 at the Congress in Sao Paulo in Brazil, saying, look, FIFA has to be changed and you have to leave. And okay, let's be honest, I think the American FBI helped also a lot on this. So, and we're grateful for that, so don't be mistaken about that. But I think in the end, it was our president who was the first one to say, stop, this is enough for FIFA. And going back to 2014, well, somebody also already mentioned by Dirk, Louis van Gaal. I think when you look at these values, he's definitely embodies these values, leadership and thinking disruptive. And I don't know if somebody of you saw our quarterfinal against Costa Rica at that time, but in the last minute, Louis van Gaal, he did a goalkeeper substitution, which was never done before like that. And maybe Dirk, you can tell a bit about that. You were on the pitch, I think.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, nobody knew, and then the goalkeeper was substituted. How was that for you, for the team?
Yeah, well, it was at that stage a surprise for the team. I think it was a surprise for our Dutch Orange supporters, and I think it was a surprise for everyone in the world. But when you have Louis van Gaal as a coach, for him nothing is a surprise because he prepared everything before. So Tim de Krul, he just got substituted 1 minute before the extra time, and he already know before the game that if it would came to penalties, what was not suspected because everyone in Holland thought after beating Spain that we would win easily against Costa Rica, but in football you never know, as we all know. So he talked the day before with Tim de Krul, together with the goalkeeper coach Frans Hoek,
yeah.
And they go through all the penalties, and they thought they would have a bigger chance to win by penalties by putting Tim de Krul in the goal instead of the first goalkeeper Sillissen. So that's something actually what always happened in football, in Dutch football, that Louis van Gaal called it in Dutch imagineren. So the imagination you do the day before the game.
Yeah, and it was really a surprise because I was in the stand and I remember what's happening. Is Sillissen injured or what's happening? And in the end it turned out great. So, and I think that was what you already explained. It was really an amazing tournament for us. I think we became third, but it felt like we almost became world champion. And And in the end, I think Louis thought about all the scenarios, thinking what could happen, what shall we do, did some great stuff.
Yeah.
Your own role was also very special at the World Cup. I think you played 4 or 5 different positions. Well, we just made before a joke about it. The only position you didn't do was goalkeeping, but for the rest, you played everywhere. How was that? Was that also one of his brilliant moves, or?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, I was a bit disappointed he put me in the goal to save the penalties. But okay, I can understand. But like I said, there was no time for surprises. So when we started to prepare for the tournament, we had to change the system. So the 1-5-3-2 system. We trained for 4 weeks on this system, and Van Gaal came to me and he said, listen, you are my target man. If we need to score a goal, I put you in as an extra striker. So I need you now in another position. Can you play for me in the training session in the B team as a left fullback? I said, of course, and I think I'm doing quite well. So I trained for several days on this position, and after 2 weeks he came to me, do you think you can play actually in the game? Because the guy who need to come in, if the left fullback didn't do well, I'm not quite happy about him. I said, I'm damn sure I can do it. Just give me a chance. But he didn't give me a chance during the preparation and the practice game we played. But he told me, listen, if he's not going to play because he's injured or not playing well, you're going to start. And eventually it happened that he put me on the left fullback position in the 5-3-2 system. But then we had a game against Mexico, and Louis van Gaal asked me to his room the day before. He said, listen, you're going to start tomorrow on the left side in a 5-3-2 system. But I'm not really happy with the guy on the right side. So if it's necessary, can you play that as well? Yes, I can do it. He said, but if we need to score a goal, I need you as a target man. Are you still ready for that? Yeah, of course, I can do. And then he said, but if we score then the goal and we are in the lead, then you have to come back to a 1-4-3-3 system, and you need the right back position. I said, no problem. So we had a good conversation, and 1 hour later he sent me all the video information about my opponent on the left, on the right, the defenders of Mexico, if I'm going to play a target man, and who I needed to play when I was on the right back position. And that's, I think, the way we prepare games. We don't believe in surprises. We think always about the details, because the smallest detail can make the biggest difference to be successful. And that, I think, is the strength of a Dutch coach.
Thanks for that, Dirk. And I think bringing us back to 2014 is always great for me, because I was just a man in the stand. But I think for everybody in the Netherlands, still a very good memory.
Well, we are very proud of what we reached, and actually, you know, we saw all the things we reached with Dutch football, with the 1988, with the women's in 2017. But Louis van Gaal was very proud, because we became third in the World Cup, but we didn't lose. At the end, we lose by penalty against Argentina. So it was quite hard to go home with the third place without losing a game.
Yeah. And maybe we should look, because I think it's a world record, playing 4 positions in a team.
I think so, yeah. And another thing is, in the stadium, you had half of the pitch was in the sun, and half of the pitch was in the shadow. So after the first half, I thought, the second half I'm going to play in the shadow, but I had to play on the right side, so back again in the sun.
Well, I was lucky to be in the shadows. Yeah. That was better, okay. But enough about the past. We have to look to the future, of course, and we can't live from the past, and that's exactly what we're trying to do, because we want to be successful again, and this time we want to win the World Cup, not being runner-up, but however, we are also proud of being runner-up sometimes. And the world of football is changing rapidly, we think. We see the development of esports going quickly. I see it with my kids too. We see changing viewing behavior. Normally we can't even watch a presentation for half an hour without watching our phone. I do it myself too. What was the last time you watched 90 minutes of a football match without watching your phone? I think nobody of us can remember it. We saw the urban sports at the last Olympics, free against free basketball, Break dance, I couldn't imagine that it's sport, but it's great and it's great to watch. My kids love to watch it. Skateboarding, so the way the world is changing goes very rapidly. And our mission as a KNVB is to make sure that football stays future-proof by reinventing it. Not by a big bang, not by revolution, but by evolution, and to see by trial and error, by doing experiments, how we can improve the game on the pitch and off the pitch. So we want to create, we want to inspire, and we want to lead on this. Firstly, of course, to develop football in the Netherlands and to win a tournament, but secondly also to do it together and to make sure that we do it for the world of football. And we strongly believe that we can make the game more fair, more sportsmanlike, and more attractive than it is today. So that's exactly why we invest a lot in innovation in the Netherlands. Of course, in a lot in fan engagement and in broadcasting, and we hope also in the coming days to get inspired here today at Soccerex, and tonight we're going to visit the game of Miami Heat, I think, so probably that will give some inspiration too. But also we're not afraid to do experimenting ourselves, and I will give you 3 examples where we're going to experiment in the coming years, at least in the Netherlands, not off the pitch but on the pitch. First, start with the VAR. We think the VAR is working well, but not well enough. It should improve, it should be better, and that's also why we are a member of the FIFA Working Group on Innovation Excellence. I think, I don't know if you saw the footage of the Arab Cup last year in December in Qatar, there they already used the semi-automatic offside detection, which works quite well, and I think it will be fully implemented on the World Cup in Qatar next summer, I want to say, next winter. So that's important. Together with the MLS and the Australian League, we're also working on proposals to open up the audio of the VAR. Because it's 2022, we should be more open and more transparent than we are today. And we do also have some visionary ideas about sideline detection and combining it with the semi-automatic offside detection. So that will be a totally different role for the assistant referee. But let's wait for that a little bit more, because in our conservative world, people could be scared of that. And in the end, refereeing is often the easy solution. So let's move a little bit more to the pitch. And I would like to ask you, you don't have to answer, but just to do the question in your head. Who thinks that in 2050 the game will be the same like it is today? Will it still be 11 aside, 2 times 45 minutes on a pitch 105 by 68 meters, or not? I think not. And this is exactly why last year, and that's my second example, we hosted the Futsal Euro in the Netherlands. So 5-a-side indoor pitches, playing quick, attractive football, looking a little bit more like basketball, like the urban sports. I think it could be one of the solutions also for football to the future. And it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what my kids think. And they loved it, so probably there's something in it. But okay, that's more for the format of football. Let's also think about the laws of the game, because nobody in the world dares to touch the laws of the game. We think we definitely should touch the laws of the game, and that's what we did with some small experiments since 2017, working on ideas how we can make the game more attractive. So we did a lot of matches, we did a lot of stakeholder consultation with referees, with players, with coaches, with spectators. Everybody involved in the game, also the dads or direct managers who coach the teams. So with a lot of the conservative people also in football, and we come up with 5 proposed changes for football, which we think will be crucial for football in the coming decade. The first one is to introduce a kick-in instead of a throw-in, and it is football, so why not kick the ball in instead of throwing it in? I think it could be easily implemented and would definitely make the game more quickly and more attractive. The second one is a self-pass, to allow a self-pass at free kicks. The third proposal is to come up with unlimited substitutions. And okay, we now have 5 substitutions, so it's little less urgency, but it could be a good idea. The fourth proposal is to come up with time penalties instead of the red and the yellow cards, to make sure that the effect of your punishment and your sanction is in the game itself and not afterwards. And the last one, that is also because I hate the delaying the game of a lot of the players, is to come up with effective playing time. This is not rocket science. This is already happening in a lot of other sports. This is already happening in futsal, but could definitely improve the game. But okay, it's also my hobby, so let's not get carried away on this. I'll go back to Nicole, I think. It's all food for thought. There's a lot of work to do on this part. We have to make the game future-proof, and it's important why you do this. And this is exactly why, where do we do the thinking and where do we do this experimenting? We do it at a state-of-the-art campus in Zeist. That's why we do a lot of these experiments. Of course, we have our offices there, we have a training ground, we have a medical center, but we also have an innovation center, and we have a digital hub over there. And I'm going to ask Nicole to tell you all about this. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So you just hear that we have a lot of ideas, ambitions, vision, but it also starts with how can we start with building from those ideas to actual products. So we did at KNVB campus, we created an innovation center. It's a physical place with over 40 companies, startups, universities working with us on the future of football. And I'm very proud that a lot of the companies we're working with in Zeist are also here. You can meet them at the SportsNL cafe. And the whole environment there is a feel of startup, vibrant, no boundaries. And it really helps us push the limits of the existing products, the existing game, the existing limitations we think there is within football. And for today, I would like to give you two very big examples of products that we have developed with our partners and implemented very successfully in Holland and are ready for you, are ready for the world to see and to learn from. And the first one is called Rinus. I know that's a very difficult word for the most of you. But Rinus is, of course, Rinus Michels, our famous coach creating total football in the 70s. Coach development, like we said before, is a pillar and a foundation for football development in general. And we believe that the coach for a grassroots team and the professional coach should have access to that content, to that quality. So we created an app, a tool, where all that information is available for everybody in Holland, free of charge. We have over 90,000 football coaches. And in the COVID-19 pandemic, over 35,000 started using Rinus. It was the ideal tool that in a momentum where the leagues were closed, teams were only allowed to play each other, that they could still improve themselves through this content and with the help of their own coach. And the cool part is that Rinus is a white label product. It's a platform that we can open up to the world, and we are very eager to open up to the world. Because we believe if you build on the foundation of that pyramid, that coach development is the single most important thing to start with. And we're here with a team of Rinus, so please look us up after the session. And the second thing, and of course it's always better, instead of just talking about it and showing some screenshots, to show you. So even me, having small children, always played football, was never a coach, I can use the app to help my kids, 4 or 5-year-olds, to develop themselves, but most of all, to have fun at football. And the other thing I would really like to show you is our equality index. We have data of over 1 million individual football players in Holland since 2014. And we've created individual player strengths for every one of them. And by that, we also created team strengths because we exactly know which player is in which team. This is grassroots, guys, grassroots. And because of this data, we can now create more equal leagues. Instead of winning 10-0 or 20-0, we have equal games, creating more fun for the player, motivated coaches to get their teams to the next level, and not players getting demotivated and stopping with football because they think, well, I'm losing 10-0 or 20-0. But even if you're winning by 10-0 and 20-0, you don't develop yourself. So it's very important to decrease the difference. And these are actual numbers for the last 2 years that we have been able to create more equal leagues. A 33% decrease in big goal differences. A 52% decrease in games where the champion wins every game. And that's massive. That's massive for short term, but even more for long term. And Sci Sports, our partner, is also here. So please look us up and look them up, because it's something we're eager to share with you. We're also doing this already with the Belgium Hockey Federation, because it's not only for football that this algorithm can be implemented. And we're very proud of those partnerships. Like Johan Cruijff once said, you can't do it alone, you have to do it together. And that's why we're here talking to you today. We think we're very good at certain parts of football development. Excellent even. But we want to have an impact on football globally. First, Dutch football, like Gijs mentioned. But we feel that what we have developed is so strong and so valuable for the football community. For you guys over here, for leagues, federation and clubs, also struggling with some of the common football development challenges. We want to create, perfect, but also share. So we are opening up our ecosystem to the world with knowledge, innovation, products and tools that we have developed and perfected in Holland, in our landscape. And we want to open a continuous stream of knowledge to you, with you. We want to maximize our positive impact on the football community globally. We're small, but we think big, and maybe that could help you in a bigger country or with other difficult football development problems that we can help you overcome those. And again, we're not excellent at everything, so we can learn from you as well. We're eager to do that. And I can imagine that you would think, okay, cool story, nice marketing presentation. How are you different from any other big football federation, league or club? And it's very simple, and I come back to where I started. It's in our DNA. It's not a strategy. It's our survival mechanism. Without thinking differently and being innovative, we will lose. We will topple out of the top 10, and we won't be able to compete with the top of the football world. We have to. We have to, and we will, and it's an opportunity for the rest of the world. But also, sustainable and long-term are very important values to us. We're not commercially motivated. We're here because we think that if football in general gets to the next level, we will benefit from other players, from other coaches, from our Dutch players going abroad to learn, from our coaches teaching other teams to play, but also coming back with information that helps us in Holland. So for today and tomorrow, and even the next couple of weeks and months, we are looking for those disruptive, innovative, daring companies, federations, leagues, clubs, that dare to take us up on the test to reinvent football. Not only today, but also for tomorrow. So please don't hesitate. For me, Gijs, Dirk, a lot of my colleagues in the back, all very recognizable with the Dutch orange lanyard, to talk to us. We're here and we're very eager to share. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time, your focus, because it's a long presentation. We'll be here at the SportsNL Cafe. Can't miss it. It's orange and big. So just join us over there. We are there the whole day and even tomorrow. Thank you very much.